Hey guys, my name's Niandeal, and today I'm going to be showing you 5 very easy redstone builds that will help you learn some of the redstone basics. For those of you who are redstone veterans, I'm sure you already know about all these components and techniques and whatnot, but the builds here are still very useful, so just bear with me as I explain some of the simple stuff, and we will get right into them. So, the first most important part about redstone to understand, aside from the actual redstone dust itself, is pistons. Pistons will push a block one direction and then retract, and you can push the block back and forth if you have a double setup like this, but it is very important to know that pistons are in just about every major redstone build. Pistons do have a push limit of 12 blocks, so we have 12 iron blocks lined up here in a row, and this one piston will be able to push all 12 blocks in a straight line and then retract. And then if we come over here, we can do the same thing back. However, like I said, it is just 12 blocks, so if we pop one more block down there, it will not be able to function. A variant of the normal piston is the sticky piston. Sticky pistons are used far more often than regular pistons. I honestly can't think of a time I would opt for a normal piston over a sticky piston except for very specific redstone builds. The only difference is a sticky piston will retain its block. It holds on to it. So instead of just pushing it and leaving it, it brings it back to it. And you can see that the face is just covered in the slime from a slime ball and just does that. So, to show you guys the usefulness and effectiveness of the pistons, particularly the sticky piston, I have built a piston door, and that's going to be one of the things I'm showing you how to do. If you hit this button here, you'll see that the door opens and then closes. So if you want to go through, you just hit the button and walk through, and it closes right behind you. And same thing on this other side. And if we hop over here, you can actually see that the redstone is fairly simple. I have stretched it out a little bit to make it a little easier for you to see the individual parts moving and operating, just to make it easier to learn. But I assure you this is quite an easy concept to do, and I am going to walk you through it right now. Okay, so I have a 2x2 tunnel here, stretches 3 down. You can put a piston door any size you want, small, large, and any size build. Just know that the bigger the door you're building, the more complex the redstone is going to actually have to get. The way that we're doing this door is actually doing an inverse powering technique for a piston, so I'll show you real quick. If we put a piston down here, we can activate it with the button for that one little bit, but if we put a redstone torch next to it, it will permanently power it, which means that's going to be constantly keeping our door closed. But, let me just set this up for you real quick. If we put a torch on there and then power the torch, it will actually temporarily deactivate the torch, which will deactivate the piston for the length of the button press. So that's the way we're going to be doing this. So if we just hop on in here, put down a couple pistons, same thing here, and then super simple design here. We're just going to run redstone dust up like this. And again, you can set this up however you want. I'm just stretching it out so you can see the redstone in working order. So this is all you need to do to make sure that the pistons will be closed. And then we can just block this up. And then you can see the second we take away that redstone signal, it will open up. So we only need to have one redstone torch powering these pistons. See if I can get this to stretch proper. There we go. And then in order to deactivate it, all we have to do is disable that redstone torch. So again, I'm just going to do a really simple little deactivation system. This will hopefully be a little prettier in your own personal builds, but you can do it however you want. We have the piston door closed. Open it up like that. It's easy to go. And the only way we've had to do this is, like I said, the pistons here on either side, the redstone looping around to connect both of them, and then a redstone torch right here. Button deactivates it, opens the door, we can just run right on through. And there you go. Now, when it comes to pistons, especially sticky pistons, something that is very, very important to know how to do is a one-tick pulse. This is the second thing we're going to be covering. One-tick pulses sound very, very complex. I assure you they are very, very simple. So, the way a piston works is when you power it, it will push out the block and retract it. If it's a sticky piston, as we've said, that works on a normal basis. However, a one-tick pulse pushes a pulse through the redstone that is exactly 1 tick long, 1 tick being in-game measurement time. The 1 tick means that the piston is powered long enough to push the block up, but then the power cuts out, which means it retracts before the game can actually pull the block back with it. So if we do this, you can see that even though it's a sticky piston, it pushes the block out and leaves it there. But then if we hit the button again, it will suck it back down. So one-tick pulses are very useful because you can create a toggleable redstone system. And another easy way to build a one-tick pulse is going to be through this here. This is a little more redstone heavy, but it still does the same exact thing, just one less piston involved. An easy way to incorporate one-tick pulses into your builds is to do another piston door, but this one's going to be toggleable. So normally, if we hop over to this one, you see that if we hit the button, it will close on us. So if you're trying to walk through, it can make it rather difficult if you're not standing right at the door itself. So the toggleable aspect is nice because if we hit the button, it will kill bats. It will kill bats, but that's not what it's meant to do. So one-tick pulse on a piston door is very useful because we can toggle it open and then toggle it closed. So it won't be closing on us. So if we open this up, we can just walk through, take our leisurely time, and then close it on this side, and then vice versa, walk through on this side, close it on this one. I far prefer to use these toggleable piston doors as opposed to the standard ones, just because they're so much easier to get through, and you can leave the door open if you're hauling stuff back and forth without having to keep hitting the button. The redstone on the toggled piston door is a little more complex. This side's pretty well the same, however, we do have a little bit more stretching over here, but that's just because we are incorporating our one-tick pulse generator here. So you can see here, if I get a good lineup on this piston, you can watch the head right there. When I hit this button, it will activate, and that spits the block out, and then that pulls it back in. Super easy design. So the way we build a one-tick pulse generator into this simple piston door is to do just a little line of 4 blocks like this, put redstone dust on top of one, a sticky piston facing up here with a block on top of it. Then we are going to go and grab a redstone repeater, put it facing that way, and then we can have our output just going right like so, and it is super, super simple. The way that this works is the redstone here, when we power it with a button, powers that piston, but it also powers the block on top of it. The block on top of it being an iron block which conducts redstone, will push the signal through to this repeater, sending it out that way. But since this piston is powered, as soon as this redstone repeater receives a signal, the piston pushes the block up out of the way, which cuts it off. So the way that we tie this one-tick pulse into the piston door that we've built here is super simple, just connect the redstone. However, if you do notice, we have a long line of redstone running behind it, which is a little too long to carry the signal, so only half of our pistons are actually going to activate. This is a really, really easy fix. Redstone power can only travel, I believe it's 16 blocks on dust before it loses its effectiveness, and to do that, you just need what is called a redstone repeater. This will refresh and repeat the redstone signal. In order to get these to refresh and activate at the same time, all we have to do is just run a little bit of a different lead into our redstone, and if we just put the repeater right there, it should give us the power to go to both sides of it. We come over here and hit this button, both sides close, and then hit the button again, both sides open. Super, super easy toggleable piston door just by incorporating the one-tick pulse generator into our line. And that is all you have to do, and like I said, you can make this as big as you want, just know that the more redstone components you put into it, the more complicated it's going to get. Next up in the world of redstone, a very, very, very important and useful block is the observer. Now, observers to me at first seemed a little odd and we'll say counterintuitive. Why would I need to know what a block's update is doing with redstone if I'm already sending a redstone signal through it? But that was before I actually knew everything an observer would do. So observers detect any block update. So the face here of the observer is what does the detecting, and then there's a little redstone port back here which sends a signal. So if I put a block in front of this, you can see that little flash, and then if I remove it, it does it again. So any block update. If I place some redstone, it does it. However, if you notice, if I put redstone next to each other, it changes into this line pattern. That is a block update. So if I do that, it will change. Every time the layout of that block changes, it will update. However, if I don't change that specific block, then it won't do anything. Because of this, detecting any block update, we can make a very, very simple and useful melon or pumpkin farm with this, and that's the build I'm going to be showing you guys here. The way that this works is we just have a little 3 system here, piston on either side. This is where the normal pistons come in handy instead of the sticky pistons. And then just some very, very simple redstone back behind here. The stalk of a melon or pumpkin plant will, when it grows something, curve like this. That will change and register as a block update for the observer. The observer notices that curve, and as soon as it does that, it activates the pistons, which will push them into here. And you can see we've already had some pumpkins going. So this is very, very easy to do, and I will show you how to do it right back here. Alright, so for this super, super simple, easy build, all you need to do is do a line of 3 dirt, and then right behind it, we're going to do a line of whatever building block you're using. An observer, wrong way. You always, that's important, that's something you need to know. The observer will always face and observe the direction that you are facing. So if you want to observe this block, you need to place it facing that block. So put the observer right there, and then we put a piston on either side. Carry this little line out the back, and then just put that block right there. When the observer receives an update, it will power this little block right there, which will then be able to transfer this redstone signal right up and into these pistons, just like that. Really, really easy. Now we're gonna grab a iron hoe real quick. Do that, and that doesn't register as a block update because it's the block beneath the observer, but as soon as we plant this, that's the wrong plant. That's embarrassing. Give me a second. There we go. As soon as we plant this, it's going to register. And then if we go and grab some bone meal real quick, you will see that every time this grows a stage, it will actually register as an update. So now that is fully grown, and as soon as a pumpkin will grow on this, either left or right, it does not matter, it will change the orientation of this block, which will activate the pistons. And this really simple design is really easy to repeat as well. So if you, let's say, want to have a 50-some block long pumpkin farm, you can easily manage that just by running the same exact pattern all the way down. It doesn't matter how far you want to go, because you especially don't need any repeaters, since all this is actually needing to do is just power a couple pistons right next to the observer that noticed the change. And I have only had this farm running since the time that I'd been building the stuff and walking you through the video, so I want to see how effective it's been in the like hour or so that I've just been on this world passively. And that's pretty good for a pumpkin farm. So this is a very, very easy, simple way to get a really nice stream of pumpkins coming in for villager trading. So the more you know. Alright, so the fourth thing that we're going to cover on our list is redstone clocks. Redstone clocks are a very, very easy way to make a repeating signal go through your redstone system. So this is a very simple way here with some repeaters all set to 3 ticks. So this is a normal one, and 1, 2, 3, that's 3 ticks. And then we just temporarily power it with a torch, and you can see that it just keeps on going around because of the delay that the repeaters have. If you want to have a really, really fast redstone clock, you can always set these just to 1 tick each, and then just really quickly power it and then take that away, and you can see that it's moving in that circle. But just know that there are a lot of easier ways to get a faster moving clock. This repeater clock is just a really easy way to get something simple going. Another really easy, really simple build for a redstone clock is this comparator build right here. It's even smaller than that one and only requires 3 pieces of redstone and 1 comparator. This is also a 1-tick generator. It's just, very, very fast. The way comparators work is they compare the signal coming in from the sides to the one that's coming in from the back, especially if they're in a mode like this, in subtract mode, which is what you need to have it in if you're going to have this clock going. I'm not going to go into every single function and use for the comparators because there's pages on pages of information on them you can find online. Find a video or something, or if you want me to do a video on the comparators, I can do that as well. Just know that they are very useful, and if I mention them in a build, it's because they are the easiest way to make something work. With a 1-tick clock like this, you can of course do the same kind of thing we've done before. Let me grab a sticky piston and place a sticky piston in there, and it's just going to keep firing out. It gets quite loud, and it will just keep firing out and then pulling back its block, and as soon as we pull that source out, it stops working. An arguably easier yet still pretty much the same thing simple 1-tick redstone clock is going to be the observer method here. It's a little bit bigger, requires a couple more pieces of redstone, but you don't have to worry about the comparator if that is scaring you for some reason. So again, with the way that the observer will detect an update, it will send the signal out. So if we place a piece of redstone right in front, it will power the redstone, and then it will detect that powering of the redstone and power the redstone, and it's just going to keep going in that pattern. It's a really easy, silent 1-tick pulse kind of system, and same exact thing as we did with the comparator, it can do the same thing with the pistons. Now, this isn't something you would really typically want to do often with a piston, just because I don't see how it would be very useful in most builds, but if you wanted to, let's say, have a dispenser trap set up with a bunch of arrows, a clock is a really easy way to have it completely empty out its clip into somebody. And a good example for a use of a redstone clock that's not a trap is by having a little bit of a pretty aesthetic thing going in your wall. So I've got some redstone lamps set up here, and we have some repeater timing messing with the stuff going down that way. Really easy, basically just putting a delay in there with all the repeaters. You can figure it out really quickly. And then we'll just power this super fast, get that clock going, and then you can see that it just powers our lamps going all the way down, adding a good little bit of disco lighting to any drab build. Here's the thing though, is I could just stand here looking at the disco lighting all day, just because for some reason I find the timing of it so satisfying. Like, they always come across in the same exact way. Never mind the fact that it's computer and it's basically programming with Redstone. I mean, I know it's gonna come across in the same way, but it's still fun. Alright, number 5. The last thing that we're gonna talk about in this Redstone video is flying machines. When people hear flying machines, they get very, very scared and terrified because they think that it means end of the world is coming. Flying machines, they're so difficult to build, it's terrible. That is not the case at all. Flying machines are super simple. Let me just put a little stopping thing right here. Flying machines are basically an observer powering a sticky piston, which pushes a block of slime blocks because those stick together and you can push a bunch of stuff with it, which will then move an observer, which will detect the movement and power a piston, which will pull the rest with it, which will move this observer, which will power the observer, which will power the piston, which will push this, which will power this observer, so on and so forth, and it keeps going until it can't anymore. Furnaces and obsidian and a few other things are unmovable objects in Minecraft. Don't ask me why furnaces are, they just are. So a really easy way to make it stop when you want it to stop is by putting a furnace in the way, like I did just down there. The way flying machines work, as I said, is pretty simple in essence. Once we just break this block, it's going to update this observer, and then you can see that it just pushes and pulls itself all the way across, and it will not stop until it reaches something that it cannot push, which is either going to be this immovable object, or once it accumulates enough blocks to make it more than the 12 block push limit of pistons. And then if we want to send this flying machine back, all we do is we just update the observer on the back side of it, and it will send it back and forth. And I just love flying machines. They're really fun to work with, they're hilarious, and people get all, like, confused when you manage to build a flying machine into something effectively. I don't know why. They're very simple, as I've said. So if we just hop in our little chamber right here, you can also see another effective use of flying machines being transport. If you want to have yourself, for whatever reason, flying across the world in X manner, then you can do this with a flying machine, and then place that right back there, and we'll go back. And I just love flying machines. Like, they're very useful. You put them in so many builds. You can make farms with them. You can make transport machines with them. You can do a lot of stuff with flying machines, and they are very, very easy. So, first thing we're going to want to do is you always want to have your course, quote-unquote, planned out. So we're going to place a furnace for our immovable object there, and then we're going to do one right here as well. That basically means we're not going to accidentally send a flying machine flying endlessly off into the distance. I've done it. There's one somewhere out this direction, and I have no idea where. Okay, so to start building the flying machine, we want to place this block here, a block here. Oh, not into the furnace. You want to shift-click on the furnace, and then an observer facing into it. That's how we're going to start our simple flying machine. And then we are going to place a sticky piston facing out like so. Now, the biggest trick to flying machines is you have to make sure that your slime blocks that are pushing and pulling each other don't pull the wrong thing. This is the only part that gets confusing with a flying machine. You'll want to tinker around with it a little bit. This design here, like I said, is very simple. I'm just going to grab a slime block here. So if I place a slime block on both sides of these, when this block is pulled by a piston, which we'll have facing this way, then it will pull both of these with it, and that's going to be basically resetting itself ready to push. So, I'm going to place our little piston in right, like, not like that, like so, and we can break these out of the way. And then if we put a slime block here and wrap it around, that means that when this piston pushes, it's going to pull these slime blocks, which will pull this piston. Then this piston will pull these slime blocks, which will pull these back. Like I said, it sounds confusing and terrifying and menacing, but once you're building it, I mean, this is it. This will fly on its own. Okay, technically this won't fly on its own because I forgot that we kind of need to have our observer facing up on this. So let me just build this up like so, and place an observer up like that. Let me make sure that we're not going to fly. There we go. Okay. Now this will fly, and all we need to do is put our little chamber in like so, and those slime blocks will all pull each other. And if we go and hop right in here and break this block, you'll see that we go flying off into the distance. A very, very easy to build machine. Again, it gets confusing when you try to think about how it works. Just know that it works. So that's how to build that. Now, the way that I've incorporated a flying machine into a build is an elevator. You will see these on a lot of servers or builds of anyone who's into Redstone. They will make flying machine elevators. They're really easy to build. You just need to line your floor basically with these immovable objects, and then you can just send yourself flying straight up into the next level, and then walk out up top, and then when you want to go back down, step back onto your platform, and then activate your flying machine and it'll go back down. Really, really easy way to incorporate this into a build, and very, very fun to work and show off as well. I cannot tell you how much fun I have building flying machine elevators. I don't know why they're so fun. I don't know why they look so cool, but they just do. Alright guys, well that was 5 easy redstone builds to help you kind of learn the basic mechanics of redstone. We had the pistons and the one-tick pulses, then the observers and the redstone clocks. Flying machines I wouldn't say are basic redstone, but they're important to know, and they're surprisingly easy to get constructed once you just tinker around with them a little bit and figure out what works. I'm gonna do it for you guys. I'm gonna do it because I now have an extra flying machine that I built. I'm going to show you what it's like, and I'm gonna do my outro flying away into the distance. This isn't gonna snag my elevator now, it's far enough away. Okay. And there we go. Alright, so... oh, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did learn at least one thing while you're watching this, I'd appreciate you letting me know in the comments below and giving us a like. If there's any other redstone builds or anything that you want to see on this channel, since I have come back to it, and I do plan on at least uploading a few more videos if there's the call for it, let me know in the comments below and drop a subscribe so that I can see that y'all do want to see some more stuff. And yeah, I think that's pretty well it. If you want to see how to build that elevator that's slowly fading into the distance, I can do a video on that. If you want to see where this takes me, I guess stay tuned, because really as long as I'm in here, it's going to keep loading this up, and therefore it will never ever stop. And this means in my future videos there will be a flying machine endlessly soaring into the distance. I cannot see my elevator anymore. I am no longer part of this night. Goodbye, flying machine. You have served me well.